Hello, Just Jax here and welcome to my channel. And this will be considerably shorter than the last one, which is a good thing because the last one had some not so interesting elements in it where I was still working out kinks and couldn't work out how to fast forward things and so on and so forth. Now this is just going to be, like I say, just a little video, and it's content for my banner for the top of the page, which is yet to go up. So that's going to be a work in progress, but I'd like to share it with you all the same. So again, just a light-hearted little stick video, showing some more sticks that have gone up here in my banner, and some other objects that I've made that I think will be good interactions for the sticks. Like this little guy, he's just a simple little sewn together gingerbread man with his arm bitten off. I like him, he's funny. I decided to do him double-sided, so he's got a little story. He's quite happy-go-lucky chappy on the one side until he realises he had his hand bit off. And then you flip him around and he's a bit startled by it. So just silly little things, but that's what I like. So yes, this is just going to be about 30 odd minutes long, and yeah, just some more sticks. After this we should have Cosmic Cat. I've uploaded that to the computer today and I've had a quick look at it, and it is in focus, and once I've done recording the voice over here, I'll check the audio on that one, because it should have running dialogue as well, as opposed to this voiceover that I'm doing for these first few videos that I've done. So yeah, this is all we're doing, is a couple of little sketches. That's what I'd like to do for the background, you know, because I think, as I mentioned in the stick banner video, when I did that and I uploaded the image, there was more than one option. There was like a long thin option for, I think, phones, and then a little expansion either side of that for, I think, tablets, and then a full screen, so essentially like an expansion below that and above that for computers and monitors and televisions. So I thought it might be nice to eventually expand the stick banner with some other sticks interacting or working on other things that I've done and made, so it's not just a doodle. There'll be some more serious artwork pictured there, some sketching and some sewing, hence the little sewn together gingerbread man. So yeah, in each of these little sticks that I put together, there is like a little object of reference. So in this, where you see that little crudely sketched gingerbread man in the background, that's where I'll have a nice photograph of the actual gingerbread man, and then I will have the stick that I'm drawing now next to him. So it'll be a little bit of photo montage, I guess. So yeah, I found it good. I like to have a little point of reference, so even if it's just a really loose sketch in the background, like with the banner where I just did a circle and a smiley face with curly hair in the middle, that was like a point of reference. So I could build around that and bear in mind not to go into that space because it'll be covered up. And it's the same for this. I do it with, I think I do 4 sticks in total. 2 interacting with pieces of artwork or things that I've made, and 2 that are there just because I love them. And they're based on real life people / creatures. I don't want to give too much away, even though you could very easily just skip to the end and have a little peek-see. So yeah, this is just going to be some more cheeky stick work. One will be working hard, this one's not working quite so hard, as you'll see. I decided he was going to be the person that ate the gingerbread man's hand. And so yeah, just sketching him out, and much like in the banner, I will be sketching everything in pencil on paper and then sketching over with marker to define everything and just adding a little hint of colour. keep that running theme going, so it all ties in rather nicely. So yeah, hope you enjoy. Again, like the others, I'll be chiming in and out as I see things that are reminding me of what I was actually trying to talk about at the time. So yeah, hope you enjoy. Now I was having a little think as what to do with the insides of my gingerbread man as he's being eaten. Did I want him to have just little balls of fluff around the bottom of the stick man? Did I want it to be crumbs, hinting that he's a real gingerbread man? Or did I want it to be a little bit red? So it was kind of like, oh, he's a gingerbread man, but he's made of flesh and bone at the same time. So I had a little think as I was going, and I do pause at one point in this video, so that's where I'm really thinking, because all three of them are really cool, viable options. They'd all sell the point of what's actually happening here. Oh yes, and I do distract myself as I was watching this back and editing it. I was just simply cleaning the nib of the marker as I was going, but it looks like he's got stinky wee lines coming out the top of him. They're not stinky wee lines, I'll reassure everyone now. It just so happened to look like that as I was testing or clearing off the nib. It's because that nib was coming into contact with a lot of darker colours, so it would have been very murky if I didn't do that. So yes, that's what I was thinking about in this point. In the end, I decided to go for it being, for that little tiny splash of colour and to hint more at what that was, I decided to go for the red. So it was like he's made of flesh and bone. I looked as though they were like little tiny puffs of white, but they didn't really hint too much at them being stuffing. And there was already a fair degree of sort of browns and gingerbread tones going down anyway. So I thought the red would be just a little break it up, and it would make it even more obvious as to what's going on, so you weren't wondering why he's got little white dots that haven't been filled in, hovering around. It might not have been too obvious, so yeah, I went for red. A while ago now I did some, what were to begin with just doodles. They're on some, at the time, just some scrap note paper. I can't remember, there's a little branding on the corner. It was one of those random work supplies sort of things. So I was just going to use it for doodles, and then I got carried away with the doodles, and I really liked them because they were becoming more artwork than doodle at that point. So I kept them, and one of, well, more than one, but one in particular was a really nice pencil sketch of a falcon, I believe it was, and it came out really good. So I continued working on it, and I left it 3/4 finished. At that point in time I was not easily distracted, but I was chopping and changing in between, because they were starting out as all as doodles, so none of them, I didn't have any intention of any of them becoming anything serious, but this one did. So I rather liked it, and I thought it would be a nice little image to have in the background, in the banner eventually. And I'd like a stick to be drawing that. And I had a little play around with proportions and scaling on this one, so you know, nobody really knows how big this bird looks if there's no point of reference, including the paper, because there's no point of reference on the paper. So I wanted the stick. The stick was, as you see all the other sticks, he was sort of in their proportions, and the artwork compared to him would be the same size in relation to the pencil. So if I try and make this make sense, the stick man, all the sticks are smaller than your average pencil, because he was heaving and hoeing this almighty pencil and working his tiny little stick bottom off to try and create this beautiful sketch of a falcon. So this is where, as I referenced in my last video, my hands, as you'll see now, they start hovering in what appear to be random positions. That's me using my body as a point of reference as well, so I could visualise more clearly where the stick man's arms and hands would be if he was carting this massive pencil around. So, like I said in that one, rather than guess and get all these janky angles and, you know, his limbs not quite match up to what they're meant to be doing or in relation to his body, I used myself. So that's why my arm's just seemingly hovering in the middle of nowhere. It's so I know that's where he'd be holding the pencil, this almighty thing. If it was that big to me, that's how I'd have to hold it, like almost like a massive bottle of pop, that sort of circumference. It's a very handy trick, and I do recommend it if you are drawing form, especially human form. Use yourself as a point of reference. It does help, and you can either do it like I was, where you're just sitting there looking at your limbs and what part of you, or do it in front of a mirror, so you get a really good idea of what you're, you know, in the image, your arm in the forefront, and how it would look in relation to your arm in the background or behind that one. So yeah, it's very handy, and it does help a lot. And like I said in that video, sticks are fun, and they're a really good starting point to learn to sketch. It doesn't have to all be in 3D, and you can even use, to make things easier on yourself, you can use multiple colours. So you might want to use black for the body and for the arm that's going to be in the foreground, in front of everything, and pick blue or red or a different colour for the arms and legs that are going to be behind everything else. It'll be easier for you to follow those lines, and eventually when you keep doing that, you won't need to swap colours around. You can just use pencil, and you can get some really good effects and really dynamic drawings by using your own body as a point of reference. And this is where I have a little umming and ahhing kind of moment, as I was unsure what sticks to do next. And well, I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure at the same time. And to cut a long story short, I have 2 dogs. Me and my other half, we have 2 amazing girls. A big St Bernard cross retriever cross Samoyed called Nova. She's a black and white girl with the softest coat you'll ever come across. And then we got her a friend last year, little Marley, a black lab. And again, she's such a lovely little girl. She's 100% effort and 100% love. And it was one of the best things that we did for Nova, getting her a little friend. Though she won't be such the little friend for much longer. Big Nova is 4 coming up to 5 at this point, and little Marley is just coming up to a year. So she's little Marley at the moment, but she won't be for much longer. And they do mean the world to us, so it seemed only fitting that I have them involved somewhere, because they're going to crop up several times throughout this YouTube endeavour. From playing in the background, you might get the odd woof creep through, and Nova has a very booming woof. Marley has a very impressive bark, but she doesn't pull it out. She pulls it out, all of about 3 times since we've had her. So yeah, I felt that it was more than appropriate for my girls to crop up in my background there. And I tried to capture the poses that they pull when they're playing. Nova is quite stand up when she's playing, and Marley goes for your classical dog, bum in the air, paws down, sort of jump around and play. And Nova's very gentle with her. She could give Marley a lot more, but she is such a sweet girl. She holds back, and she doesn't tug the toy too hard, and she always gives up her toys for Marley, even though we tell her she doesn't have to. It's just her nature. She's a very gentle girl. Very booming bark, very loud when she gets playing, and very throaty. But it's all coming from a very gentle heart. So yes, I tried to capture them as they would be playing together. So Nova is Marley's idol, so she's looking up at her, wanting to play, wanting to take whatever's in her mouth. And Nova's being very gentle and standing there with her one paw raised. And I thought, though they've never done this because they're really, really good girls, they've never chewed up anything that they shouldn't. They've only ever chewed up their toys, which, again, I can't believe how lucky we've been. I wanted them to play with my paintbrushes. In the past, I've had dogs in the past that have got hold of my paintbrushes and turned them into nubbins. I know these 2 wouldn't, so I had no issue with drawing them playing with my paintbrushes, because they'd play with them ever so gentle for me. They'd probably take better care of them than I would. And yes, I tried to capture, like I say, their body languages, and Nova, courtesy of the Samoyed in her, has a curl to her tail when it's erect, and Marley has your traditional destroy everything Labrador's tail. I mean, she hasn't destroyed anything with it, but it's like a one-man band when she walks through the kitchen wagging her tail, and it hits at everything. Oh, and briefly back to the artwork. I'm not a fan of rubbers, I've said that before. That doesn't mean I won't use them. This is one of the rare instances where I decided to use one, because I was trying to get Nova's front left-hand paw at the correct angle, and I was putting like the wrist in the wrong place in relation to her elbow. Even with using my own arm, I kept looking at my own arm and then going back to the paper and still drawing it wrong. And it got to the point where there were so many different pencil lines but I wouldn't have been able to distinguish which one was the right one. That's a good point to pull a rubber out if you need to. If you've got so many lines it's worse than spaghetti junction, then definitely get a rubber on there so you can start afresh and make sure you get that correct line, especially when you mark it up with a marker. There's no going back at that point. And yeah, back to the girls and their body, their build up. So yeah, Nova's the big one, Marley's the little one, and I tried to get their ears as well as their tails as a defining feature, because Nova has floppy ears but more erect, so they'll come out, they're quite triangular and they'll come out quite away from her head before they hang with the flop. Marley's got more like her personality, like just little ditsy floppy ears. They barely come out the side of her head, and they just sort of hang there like their hair. So that's what I tried to capture, was both the girls' different ear styles. So hopefully I did them justice. We shall see. Now, another visual distinguishing feature between the two girls, as I mentioned, Nova is a big black and white girl and Marley's a pure black girl, like jet black. I mean, bless her heart, she's like a shadow. She blends in. If the lights are out and her eyes are closed, there's nothing to reflect off. You have to feel for her sometimes. Now, Nova she's what we'd say she's a white dog with black patches. So on her face, this with my stick creations, they don't have bodies, not, you know, bulky bodies of any shape, just stick bodies. So Nova's markings are a white face, and both her eyes and her ears are black, like two big black splodges going over either side, and her muzzle is white with the odd dotting of black here and there, big black shiny nose, and the white runs up between the eyes, and as you get to the top of her head she has another black spot, and it almost joins the two black patches either side of her entire face together. So I tried to capture that in the pattern on the face for Nova, as well as when you have black on black and you need to fill it all in. I tried to leave a tiny little slither of white where the ear is resting over the face, just so you can distinguish what's going on there, so it doesn't look like she's got a deformed shaped head and no ears because it's all black. And that was the same for Marley as well. So obviously she's all black, so where her ears flop down, again I had to try and leave a tiny slither of white to suggest that that's her ear hanging there. You know, there's a break in the imagery. It's not just one flat, deformed splodge of a face. And again, hopefully you can see that when I eventually put these up. I don't think you'll see it in this video, because again, this suffered the same fate as the previous one, where it started out in focus and then it's got that tiny bit out of focus, which means you can't see too clearly some of those finite details, like, because it is literally a little slither of white separating the black of her face and the black of her ear. So yeah, hopefully you can see that when I do eventually put them up. Like I say, you'll see this video when I do the pictures and put them together, take the photos and put them together as the background image for my page. You'll be able to see it a hell of a lot clearer then. So yeah, this is my little stick girls playing with my paintbrushes. They had to be involved. And as for a little splash of colour with my girls, they're black and white, so I didn't need to add any colour to them. I just add a little hint on the paintbrushes, just for that little splash of colour, so that's that running theme throughout. And yeah, this is pretty much this little video done. Again, it was fun, and it's to show you not everything that you do has to be serious. It doesn't have to end with a massive piece or anything. It can just be doodling sometimes and having fun with sticks or something simple. So yeah, thank you so much for checking the video out again, and hopefully you'll keep coming back and more people will join us and we can have even more fun along the way and build a bit of a community out of it. So yeah, I'm still having so much fun, and like I said, thank you so much, so much for coming. Take care, and hopefully see you again soon.